the legendary Chris Moore, producer of such films as Manchester by the Sea, American Pie, Good Will Hunting, co-creator of Project Greenlight and The Chair, and all around hell of a guy, and a guy that loves to give back. So talk a little bit about Project Greenlight and The Chair, and that a concept of giving back to creatives, and you know, these are shows that were designed to shine a light on independent filmmakers, screenwriters, and all sorts of creatives coming up through the ranks. Why is that important to you?
Well, partly it's because I feel lucky. I've had some good breaks, and partly it's also as a fan, I want to see original voices get their due. And I don't want people out there, I'm from a little town in Maryland, to feel like it's so daunting that they won't even come, they won't even try, they won't even think about it. The world's changed a lot since Good Will Hunting, in the sense that there's all this digital technology. But what I really like about what you guys do, and I think you deserve a lot of credit for sticking with it 7 years or longer, that it's really a testament. These things didn't exist when we did Project Greenlight. The internet wasn't good enough, there wasn't enough speed, that I'm really happy to be allowed to share some of it and actually do it in a class format where you're actually admitting, look, I'm trying to teach something, I'm trying to help you learn from what I learned, and hopefully people will engage and they'll be part of it so that I can be valuable to people, because I don't know what they're really struggling with. But when we originally did Good Will Hunting, Matt, Ben, and I sort of felt like we'd been really lucky, and we'd had one of those runs that doesn't happen every day, but it came from a place where they were struggling to get jobs as actors, and they wrote a script in order to star in it. We weren't sure we'd have enough juice when we sold it for them to be able to star in it and sell it. And you know, we took some risks together, and you know, it's turned out well for all of us. And I think that experience, but then all the experience that have come after it, have been something that have given me somewhat of a unique perspective on, you know, where the industry is today and what's going on. And so I hope I can share that by doing the class with you guys in a way that's helpful to people.
That's awesome. And then we spent a good part of the afternoon talking about how the business has changed, and you know, you're talking about Good Will Hunting and Matt and Ben coming into you with that script and the idea, and you know, what would be different today if they walked into your office today, that film with that, the idea for that film, exactly the way they presented it to you back in the 90s, what would be different today as far as putting it together? What would you say to them?
Well, it's an interesting thing, because I like to believe I would still say, wow, this is a really good script. Because that's the first thing for me, is this is a really good script. You know, back then, in sort of 92, 93, there was a lot more what I would call mini studios or actual companies set up to make these kind of movies. Today, it's pretty much all the companies are focused on big movies. They need to make a certain amount of money, that requires a certain amount of money. It also has to be a certain kind of movie. So back then, it was pretty straightforward. You know, we got a great script, you guys want to star in it, let's go figure out how we can find somebody to make it. It's probably in the $18 to $25 million range to do it as written.
Right.
These other two parts, you know, the young girl and the professor are big. We might be able to, you know, get some cool people. And it would be a little bit like today. The similarity would be packaging it and trying to find somebody. The difference is there was a wealth of companies to go to at that time to say, you know, this is the kind of thing that we want to make. And the industry had a lot more success creating events out of new movies. Right? So like they could actually convince themselves that here's a movie with two guys no one's ever heard of about a shrink and some delinquent from South Boston, and you know, we believe we can turn that into something that's going to make $150 million. So you go to Manchester by the Sea, where we got equally lucky again, Matt and I at least, where we came out, we sort of had a good script, we made it, but it only made $40 million. And that's considered a success,
huge,
right?
Huge.
And so the point is, I think that independent world, and particularly dramas, you know, has all migrated to television. So part of what I might have said to him was, hey, let's look at this as like 6-7 episodes of Netflix, right? Or let's go, you know, go through more of it. There was, you know, some other stories involved that didn't make it in the final version of the movie about a thriller. There was other things, because dramas are much more done, you know, ironically in my career, I was an agent before I became a producer, and this is an example. We sold a movie version that got made of The Handmaid's Tale in about probably 90, 91, and now it's a big series, right? that idea has been out there for a while. Like, it's just, that's where people are going to watch dramas. So we might have had a whole conversation about TV. The other thing would have been, and this is what frustrates me the most, probably selfishly, is the budgets for independent movies have gone so far down because nobody's sure they can make any money, that I would have probably said, look, this is great, but we should probably rewrite it to where we can make it for $2 million. And if we could make it for $2 million, right, we'd all be set. And then if it made 150, we'd be millionaires. But at $2 million, you weren't going to lose a lot. And so back then, there was also a process where you'd say, okay, we got our agents, we go out to these 10 companies that make independent movies, we see what they say. That story's kind of famous. We ended up with one and had creative differences, went to another. But still, there were companies. Today, it's just rich people. They might have a company, they might have a logo or an office, but really it's just a rich person writing checks saying, I want to be a movie producer.
Right.
And again, I'm all for that. We had a great partner in Kim Stewart in Manchester by the Sea, but it's not like going into Focus Features or going into, at that time there was, Miramax, there was Paramount Vantage, Warner Brothers had an independent unit, there were all these things. Today, you're trying to get one person to make it, and the distribution is very scary because there's not a lot of people who are saying to the world, hey, come watch my movie. So I think part of what I want to share is that a lot of people, because writing books or making documentaries takes a while, some of the information that's out there in the world, which is why I like, again, the Stage 32 platform, is that you can be up to date. I was negotiating selling a project to a company called Awesomeness TV just 3 weeks ago, and they're out of business today. So like, if I had written a book about that, by the time the book came out, nobody would know what I was talking about. So I'm excited to do a live webinar or class, or I'm sorry I'm not up yet on the vocabulary, but I think that the point is that it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think there's real management of people's careers that are important. And I think even after having a great success like Good Will Hunting, you can make some big mistakes. And, we did some stuff right and some stuff wrong. And the same thing can be said about the people that came out of Greenlight and the people that came out of American Pie. So I've seen a lot of what the business can do, and I just think it's time to share it in a more organized way than sort of 4 beers in at a bar somewhere when somebody asks me a question. So I can't say I won't be 4 beers in when I do the class, but at least it's a class.
Our entire philosophy of education is 4 beers in or a couple of cocktails in. We like that.
You want it to be honest.
We like that a lot. We want it to be honest, and that was going to be my next question. The whole idea of, there are a lot of people in this business, and you know this as well as I do, that blow smoke up your ass. They don't tell you the truth. They don't tell you, nobody wants to offend anybody because they may end up working with them. And I think it's more important than ever that, creatives that are trying to break in, or even creatives that are in, that are trying to navigate, even as we just talked about, going from film to TV, that they really understand who they're dealing with, and that they do drill down and get as much truth as possible. How important is it for creatives today, and for people on the business side today, to really understand not only what's going on in the industry, which I think is hugely important. The Awesomeness TV is a perfect example. Example is, you never know what's going to happen. You never know who's going to move into what area next, or who's in trouble. But also, fighting for integrity, like fighting for, making sure you're working with the right people, getting the right responses, understanding what's really going on.
I mean, look, I'd say it's really, really important, and I think it's the biggest thing for me is the way I look at it is what I'm trying to help people with, what I think you guys help people with, and what I think is so different than when I was coming out of high school in 1985, which is that there weren't a lot of resources to go to and learn and get a little more educated about what it really takes, it almost felt like a whole other universe, basically going to Oz. And you're like, well, am I really going to take the balloon to Oz and see if I'm going to do that? I doubt it. My mom's not going to support that. Now I think there's more support. And now look, I take some credit that our shows like Greenlight and other stuff open some doors, and now there's lots of behind the scenes stuff, and there's lots of ways to learn about what's going on, and I'm really happy about that. What I will say is it's kind of ruthless. It's very, very competitive. It is a place where people are trying to live their dreams, and what that can do sometimes is make people totally delusional.
Right. And
so part of what I'd like to do is also help them. You were telling me about a conference you did about how to network and how to talk, and how some guy sat through 12 hours of lectures about how to present yourself and how to do it, and then fucked it up within 20 minutes of the lecture being over.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. So to me, it's like that's part of the problem. But the other thing is really about being honest with yourself. And I think part of it is, you know, and I don't mean this, I'm not trying to kill anybody's dreams. I want everybody to try it, but I'm a pretty good salesman. I figured out how to sell movies, right? I could sell cars, I could sell houses. I fell into being able to sell movies because I picked a couple good movies early in my career, Good Will Hunting being one of them. Truth of the matter is, Matt and Ben are pretty fucking talented. They're actually good, and the difference, and so they prove that over time, and they're big stars now, and they're doing their thing, and I was just smart enough to realize way back then that, you know what, this script's pretty good, I think I'm going to do this, and then we liked each other, and we stayed, you know, officially partners for 16, 17 years. But the point is that there's real talent that you got to find, and so what I really hope I can do in the class is show people how to be really honest with themselves, because the other thing that's wildly changed today is you're your own industry. You're your own company. You have to figure out how to sell yourself, how to get Twitter followers, how to market it, what genre you're in, what kind of thing, and nobody's going to be out there doing it. And today, and look, you probably have classes about how do I get an agent, how do I do whatever. I think there's a lot of people that have agents who hopefully will watch because they're disillusioned as fuck too. Because having an agent is more about how they can just help you sell yourself now. 100%. It's not about how they're going to go sell you. Like you can sit home and just be like, hey, I got an agent, now I don't have to do shit, I'll just wait for them to call me. Well, that's just not how it works anymore, right? And it's the same thing with projects. You know, I've made 30 movies, you name the ones everybody knows, right? So what about the other 25? Did I even make those? Because no one's ever heard of them, right? Some jackass on the street's like, have you ever heard of Best Laid Plans? What? No? It's like, you know, starred Reese Witherspoon. It's like, no one ever heard of it. Right. Did I really make that movie? I don't know. Like, who knows? And so the point is that I'm hoping to have some fun, to interact with people, to have the ability, you know, I also like the interactivity of this platform, to sort of say to people, listen, the situation we're in, you should learn all these things, but also hopefully I can help you decide which way you want to go. There's also a difference between the creative side, which I probably bet a lot of your folks are creative, but there's also people trying to have jobs, people just trying to become an agent or trying to work their way through a studio or trying to, and I've seen all of that and I've watched it, and so hopefully a lot of people don't talk about that, but it's also navigating a career over time. There's also people who bounce back and forth at different periods. You know, there's writers who are now, like the guy who's head of Comedy Central right now, wrote and directed the semi-pro ball basketball movie that Will Ferrell did. Right? I'm sure when he was making that movie, he thought, I'm going to be a big writer-director. And then Comedy Central comes along and says, well, why don't you just run our network for us? It's like, you know what, now I'm a big network executive. Right? And I don't know, maybe later he's going to be like, fuck it, I'm going back to being a director, right? But it's also good to know what those guys are looking at and how that business works, because you may find yourself interested in doing something else. And so I'm just really hoping that I can be part of this community to allow people to take some advantage, but also I can share proactively some of the stuff I've seen and what to do and not to do. But what I really hope is to help people get the tools so they can look at their own situation and make good decisions for their careers or for their lives. Because that's where I see most people go wrong, is they read something the wrong way or they think something's going to go a certain way, and when it doesn't, it either all falls apart or they overplayed the hand. You know, you have a script you were telling me about, it's been 2.5 years, right? I mean, I'm sure
with all the right people. I mean, we're great people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm sure when you originally optioned it to them or sold it to them, you didn't think 2.5 years we're still going to be talking about who's the actor in it.
No. Right.
So I feel like learning how to deal with that, learning how to come back, whether it's perseverance or self-preservation, or purely deciding I need to get out of it for a little while because these people suck, is all okay. And it is an ugly place that way. There's not a lot you can really count on other than yourself. And even when you have a resume that has the stuff I have on it, you get, well, he's old now. He's, you know, in today's world, I'm a white guy, so that's all problematic. It's all, the whole thing is a way to react to what's going on. And so I think it should be a lot of fun. It should be a lot of help for people. And I hope it leads toward more classes and things people would like to, you know, learn with me.
Yeah, no, and the thing I love about you is that you're completely blunt and frank, and no, you are, and it's refreshing to me because, like I said, people dance around things, but you said something that we preach on Stage 32, and that is if you are a creative in any way, or if you want to even be on the business side, even involved in like a bigger firm, you want to be an agent or whatever, you are still the CEO of you, right? It's
Yeah.
still, you are an entrepreneur, it is you, Inc.,
Yep.
right? I think a lot of people don't get that. They don't understand. I have so many people that always say to me, oh, you got a manager, you got an agent, you must have it made. And I'm like, you never work harder. Like, I'm working harder than I ever had. And when I'm producing something, it sometimes feels, even when I'm producing with other people, I kind of approach it in a weird way, like I'm doing it all on my own, because you really do have to try to do all the heavy lifting and do as much as you can.
But also, to your credit, and I've just met you today, but I would say that you're clearly somebody who can get shit done.
Well, thank you.
You have this, you have other projects, so that's also super frustrating because you are probably carrying people. I'm sure Amanda, who's behind the camera, can't do shit, and you just carry her along. But I think that all of you from
Not
Stage
true.
32 have probably seen Amanda in
Yeah.
different ways, so I'm really just making fun of her.
Yeah.
But I think that the point is, that's also a style and a personality trait that you have to figure out the best way to express that for you, because
Yeah.
I bet in your life, and again, I've just met you, but I would say, and this is the same with me, is at a certain point, if nothing is happening, you start to go crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And I always said that to my, I was like, every year or so, some shit's got to happen, or I'm gonna, go berserk.
Mhm.
And that makes me a good producer because I'll just wake up and keep trying and keep trying and keep trying. Other people need to write a certain script. Other people need to, be shooting stuff or performing or whatever. But that's hopefully what I hope to, or I guess that's redundant, but I hope to help people be able to narrow down what really wakes them up and what gives them satisfaction and what they can really find in the business. And it may not be the thing they're trying to do right now.
Right.
It might not be being a screenwriter or that kind of stuff.
Right. It could change rapidly. And I should say, Chris, we talked about doing research. It doesn't matter what level you're at. You just met today, but Chris did his recon. He called my manager to ask about me. This is great stuff. To find out, he did his own recon on me, which just goes to show you have to, you got to be.
People matter. Who you sign up with.
People matter. Who you sign up with. So anyway, Chris is going to be with us. He's going to be teaching for us. He's going to be doing some blogs. He's going to be involved, man, and he's going to be coming to you with, the bitter truth and the hopeful truth as well. It's not, we don't want to make it like it sounds like it's pessimistic. It's
I think it's
optimistic.
inspirational
It's
truth.
inspirational truth, but it's the real. We're going to be bringing
There
you
you
the
go.
real. So, Chris, thanks for being here.
I look forward to it. Thanks for having me.